My name is Janice Butler. My story is a little bit different from you all's. My husband was an over-the-road truck driver. He has gone to each and every one of these plants that have been mentioned. He went to USEC, he went to Honeywell, he went to Portsmouth, he went to Oak Ridge. He's been at all these plants. He was diagnosed with cancer, I think it was 2004. He was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But before that, before he was diagnosed, Milton called me one day, and my nickname was Baby Doll. And he said, "Baby Doll, guess where I'm at?" I said, "Your guess is as good as mine." I said, "You're a truck driver. You could be in any of the states, if you know." And he said, "I'm over in Metropolis." I said, "Oh, you be coming home tonight?" He said, "Well, yeah." He said, "But let me tell you something." He says, "You won't believe what I'm looking at." I said, "Okay, what are you looking at?" He says, "I'm looking at some containers stamped Russia." I said, "Okay." I said, "What are you hauling?" He says, "Well, I'm hauling UF6. He said, "That's what I brought over here from USEC. He said, "I'm just waiting here for them to load me back up so I can run back." I said, he was just doing back and forth runs so he could be home for the weekend. So I asked him, I said, "Well, what does that mean, Russia?" He said, "That means that it's leaving here, Metropolis, and going to Russia." I said, "Okay, enlighten me." He says, "Well, they send it over there, possibly to clean it up." He says, "But that's you know," he said, "that's not right." I said, "Well, I tell you what you do for me." I said, "Whatever they tell you to put on, you put it on from your head to your feet." I said, "You wrap yourself up." I said, "Because I know for a fact, just doing reading from it, because I had a girlfriend who passed away that worked at USEC that had a brain cancer. And it made me aware that those particles were airborne. Naked to the eye, you couldn't see them, but they were airborne, those particles." So, a few months later, he had another run to Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And he was tired. And so he went in, he pulled into the docks, and he asked the guy, he says, "Well, we're not ready for you, sir." He says, "Okay." He said, "Well, where can I get, park it to go get some shut-eye?" He said, "Well, just go over to that field over there," he says, "and we'll wake you when we get ready for you." So when he woke up, it was daylight, break of day, he called me again. He said, "Baby Doll," he said, "guess where I'm at?" I said, I give up." He said, "I'm sitting in a field of metal." I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well," he said, "I talked to the guy on the dock and I asked the guy what all that metal was laying on top of the ground." He said, "Oh, don't worry about it, it's hot." I said, "You went to sleep in a hot field?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "That's where they told me to take a nap at." I said, "But if it's hot, that means it's not clean." He said, "Well, the guy told him at the dock that they brought it back to that particular area because it was hot and they couldn't do whatever they do, testing or whatever, but he knew it was hot." So my plight is a little, like I said, is a little bit different from you all's. My husband being a truck driver, and I know he's not the only one that has come in contact with the contamination from hauling this UF6 and whatever, God knows whatever else that's being transferred up and down the highways. But when he was diagnosed in 2004, he told me, "Don't give up the fight." Because he said those SOBs owe him. I had he and I had done a interview with the DOL and had gotten correspondence, and every time we sent something in, it was denied, 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 denied. And on one particular instance, they tell us that they couldn't find his dosage reconstruction. They couldn't find his records. And unbeknown to us, we get another letter from Mitch McConnell's office telling us that we had to sign off on this form because it was some kind of privacy law that in order for them to do an investigation on his records, we had to sign off giving them permission to look for these records, get these records. But my question was, if you tell me in one letter that there were no records, how can you ask me to sign off something to find the records? So to me, that was a lie. My husband passed away in 2010 from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was one of the cancers that they had listed for the compensation. Now they told us that we wouldn't be compensated because we don't follow under the definition of a subcontractor worker. Oh, that's a lie. Yes, sir, it is. According to the Code of Federal Regulations, if a company's contracted to go into a job site, that you're considered subcontracted. So I'm at a standstill, right? And I met Gary one Labor Day. I think it was 2011, the year after my husband passed away. He was giving out information down to the Broadway. And that's how I got to meet with him, because I told him what my situation is. He said, come on in and talk to me. He says, it's not going to happen overnight. He says, but it's a process. So my process is this: the race is not given to the swiftest, but the one who endures to the end. Amen. So I'm here with Gary. It's tiring to me. I know it's got to be exhausting to you. I don't know how many people have gotten their compensation from the plants or whatever, but I think we all are due reparations at this point in time. Mitch McConnell, we know he is the man in charge. It's not 44.5. But with that being said, I hope and I pray that the journey is to come to an end one day for me as well as the other.